down, shut me out when I needed you. Oh, oh, I'm gonna burn this bridge. I ain't never coming back. No, I ain't never coming back. No, no, no. That girl you know is gone. You can see it in the past. Oh, I ain't never coming back. No, no, no. You lit this fire in me because you never believed that there was fire in me. Now you can't put it out. I'm gonna burn this bridge. I ain't never coming back. No, I ain't never coming back. No, no, no.
Fun times. Woo! Yes. Wepa! I want you to know that you're still the best students ever. Ever. So give yourself a round of applause. You guys are awesome. Awesome. So, we're going to meet again next week, just to keep us on schedule here. And have I told you you got skills? I haven't told you you got skills? You see, there's still a couple of things that I have to share with you. You guys have got skills. So one of the important takeaways from this course, besides understanding about what is marketing and the product life cycle and branding, logos, the adoption curve model, targeting, positioning, segmentation, all those things are great takeaways. BMW, Reptile, BP. Why did I mention BMW, Reptile, Washburn Guitar? That's kind of like a random group of companies. Why would I mention that? Wait, somebody over here. You? Shannon? Shannon Brown? What about the homework? Those were some of the case studies that we covered this semester. Some of the case studies to help bring to life important marketing concepts. So some of the definitions you may not remember 5 years from now. Some of them you may not remember 5 weeks from now. But more than likely, you're going to remember that BMW case and their branding strategy, or how Washburn Guitar addressed the issue of pricing, how Prince Sports segmented the market. So you're not going to probably remember that segmentation is about dividing a market into sub-markets, or sometimes we say that it's about aggregating markets. But Prince Sports is a good example of a company that segmented the market in order to identify opportunities. But in addition to those key takeaways and other marketing-related concepts, another important key takeaway for everyone here is you got skills. So remember from the beginning of the semester I was telling you that it's important that as a result of courses that you take, and certainly this course, that you improve your critical thinking skills. That your ability to analyze information and use information that's available to you is enhanced. Your ethical awareness increases. your communication skills increase and improve. So definitely, our objectives, our goals this semester are multifaceted. So it's not just about the 4 P's of marketing, also known as the price, place, promotion, product, the marketing mix. So those are important takeaways, but we're using marketing as a platform to develop your critical thinking skills and your communication skills. Every week you have a written assignment. That's a type of communication. Written communication, that's very important. And most of the time, the postings that I've read, in most cases, you've left out LOL and ROFL. Most of them were actually very well written, very coherent. So I didn't see a lot of those OMG comments in your case analysis. So communication skills are important. What we call information literacy. So those cases, you're provided with a certain amount of information. What we've done is demonstrated that you could use the information that's available, the information that's given to you, as well as the information in the textbook, the concepts in the textbook, to conduct an analysis, to make recommendations. Those are all important skills. The ethical reasoning skills. So when you go on interviews, it's important that you emphasize that. It's not just about, of course you took a course in marketing. Everybody takes a course in marketing in college. But what are some of the key takeaways? Yes, you could tell them about the marketing mix. You could tell them that you did a case study analysis, and you know what? On the interview, you're probably going to be able to remember one of those cases. That's going to be impressive. Because it shows that you could apply the concepts. That you're not just memorizing definitions, but that you could apply the concepts to a situation, to a scenario. That's what they're hiring you to do. Is to have an impact on their business, to be able to make a difference, to be able to increase sales, improve profitability, maximize customer satisfaction. Are you guys writing this down? Okay, is there anybody here with me today? I guess not. All right. So, questions about that? So, very important to emphasize that you got skills. You got skills. That's important when you go on interviews. To communicate that you got skills. That you're a person who has a high level of ethical awareness. There's so many ethical issues, and there's so many situations that have resulted in thousands, hundreds of thousands of people losing their jobs, companies going bankrupt because executives, everybody here, managers, executives, made decisions that were unethical. So when you go on an interview, believe me, everybody's sensitive to that. One of the questions that they're going to ask you is about ethics. They're going to ask you about ethics. So, again, we're using ethics as a part of this course to integrate marketing concepts and ethical issues. So those scenarios are realistic situations that very likely you will encounter, or you maybe already have encountered. And you know what? I know that some of you have communicated with me already that you thought it was challenging, you couldn't decide, and that's why it's a dilemma. And I showed one of my friends was reading the packet with the 12 scenarios, and when he was done, he was like, oh, this is, I don't see the issue. He said, this is easy. I was like, well, believe me, it's not that easy. It's not as easy as it seems. You might be very opinionated about what to do, but these are issues that executives grapple with. So, a company sells a defective product. Now, 5 people will die as a result of the defect in that product. So do we recall the product or do we not recall the product? Is that one of the scenarios? And then we said, what about if you recall the product? That means that the company would be bankrupt. Does that change your decision whether or not to recall the product? Now, for some, they say, no, we should just recall it even if it bankrupts the company. And others, students have said, well, you know, come on, business is business. It's going to be cheaper to just pay the families of those that were killed as a result of the product defect. And has this ever happened before? Yes, a situation like this has happened before, where a company decided that although their car was defective, and when it was rear-ended, it exploded. So imagine driving down the Belt Parkway and the car's rear-ended and the car bursts into flames. Well, they decided that having never taken this course or any course at the School of Business, that it would be, they did a cost-benefit analysis. So we call it cost-benefit analysis. And they decided that it was cheaper. They estimated how many people would actually die as a result of the product defect. Because you know that, I mean, not every one of their cars is going to be rear-ended and explode, right? That would really be no bueno. So, I mean, that's not going to happen to every one of their cars, but a certain percentage, they estimated that a certain percentage of their cars would be rear-ended, and of those, a certain percentage would actually explode, catch on fire, and the people inside would be burned alive. So what they decided to do was, they decided that, after doing this rigorous analysis, that it would be cheaper to pay those families who were killed in the accident, to pay them, instead of to actually recall all those cars. Because to recall all those cars, they estimated would be much more costly than paying what we call the death claims as a result of the accident. So those scenarios, they're not, they require some soul searching. It's not meant for you to try to figure out what the right answer is. There's no quote-unquote right answer. I mean, I think in some situations, I like to think that the more socially responsible, ethically responsible choice is a little bit more obvious, but part of the process is to get you to analyze the information and to think critically about what should be done. So you're the executive. You need to decide what should be done. What's going to be your recommendation? What should the company do going forward? So there's 2 of them that actually are in a different order, right? You probably noticed that now. I think it's 1 and 8, I think, are in a different order. But when we finish this these group of assignments, you would have completed all 12. So if you're trying to keep track of, I think I did that one already, the best way to do that is to make sure that you've answered all 12 of the scenarios. And each scenario has 4 questions. What are they? What's the ethical dilemma? So what's the issue? What's the issue that the executive is facing? And then, what are the alternatives? So identify at least 3 alternatives. What are the choices? Not what should they do, we're not up to that yet. Just what are the alternatives? They could do A, they could do B, they could do C, they could do D, they could do C and D. Those are the possible courses of action. And then, what is your recommendation? So you identify 3 or 4 alternatives, right? They could do A, they could do B, they could do C, they could do D. Now, which one of those, or more, do you recommend that the company do? And then explain why you think they should do that. What's your rationale for that decision? Why is that the best decision? So it might be that it's the least expensive. That could be one of the reasons. It might be practical. The fact that it's legal, that maybe it's the only choice that is legal, the only choice that's ethical. So even though one of your recommendations might be legal, you might feel that even though it's legal, it still might be unethical. That's why we're going through this process. Is because there's a lot of things that are legal but are unethical. Because remember, the law only describes really a relatively small number of things that are considered to be illegal. Just really a few things that are considered to be illegal. And that's why we have to raise the bar and challenge ourselves, and ask ourselves, even though it's legal, is it ethical? Is what we're recommending ethical, even though it's legal? So it's good to start with, are we recommending something that's legal or illegal? So certainly, you don't want to recommend something that's illegal, but that's not enough. We need to ask ourselves whether or not our recommendation is ethical. And think about the consequences. Is it practical? What we're recommending, is it practical? Is it realistic? Is it something that we can implement? Questions? No questions?
I was just going to say, yeah, I got confused with the number 8, so I should do number 1 for number 8.
If you haven't already, then, so you had already done 2. So the list of 12 that I posted, swap 2 of those. So just make sure that, that you've done all 12.
I don't know, I could be remembering wrong, but the response questions that you gave, or the kind of response that you asked for when you first assigned the first 2 were different from like the 3rd and 4th or something like that. I believe it was like a 250-word response then, and then you...
So for each question, there's 4 questions, so each one requires a 50-word, a minimum of 50 words, but for the scenario, it's a minimum of 250 words.
I think what she's saying is like the first 2 ones were didn't say to answer each question separately, so I don't know, I did it the same way.
Okay, so yeah, you should answer each one separately. So you saw the sample response? The quick brown fox jumped over the lazy dogs? Does anybody know what that's about? Or are you just thinking, he is drunk again? skunk, right? It's gotta be. The quick brown fox jumped over the lazy dogs. Coach, that's enough tequila for you. Too much tequila, coach. Come on, go easy. Nobody? Michelle? No? Yes? Joseph?
Has every letter of the alphabet in it.
Yes. So Joseph says that sentence includes every letter in the alphabet. How many letters are there in the alphabet? 26. Are you sure? Are you sure? You look, nobody's saying they're sure. Yes, 26. So, in typing, even if you don't have a typewriter, now I'm not saying I have a typewriter, don't even try that. Don't even try and say, oh, coach has a typewriter, because I'm not that old, so check yourself. So, you still need to, with your Mac, or your Vio, your laptop, your desktop, you still need to use a keyboard, a QWERTY keyboard. So if you type that phrase, then you're using every letter in the alphabet. So if you want to practice your typing, keep typing that phrase. The quick brown fox jumped over the lazy dogs. And then you've typed every letter in the alphabet. So that's a good way to practice. When you're not working on ethical scenarios. But you got skills. Remember, you got skills. This is going to be a very long class tonight. You ate all the chips. What happened? You guys? I'm here. Orange juice. Okay, here we go. Here we go. Here we go. Let's do this thing. Are you ready? Anybody got coffee? Oh, somebody brought coffee. That's good. How about no-dos? No-dos? Anybody got no-dos? And I'm supposed to be the no-dos. You know that if you listen to these videos on YouTube, if you watch them, I've been told that it's a very effective sleep aid. So you just go the first 5 minutes and then that's it, you're gone. So keep that in mind. Okay, let's talk about the product life cycle. So remember we said that in the product life cycle, we have the first stage is introduction. Introduction, growth. You guys writing this down? Introduction, growth, maturity, decline. And does it end there? Well, it doesn't need to. Introduction, growth, maturity, decline, and obsolescence. So some products actually become obsolete, but even after obsolescence, I think she realized she was in the wrong class. It might be possible to experience revitalization. So it might be possible for a product or a category to reach obsolescence, which means that at a particular point in time, sales are close to zero. Our challenge is to manage the product life cycle. So we don't have to accept decline as inevitable. what's so compelling about that model is that it's like a foreshadowing of what's to come. Now, knowing that that's in the horizon, that that's in the future, that's like getting a glimpse of your future. So, knowing that this might happen, that you might introduce a product and sales start to increase, and then it reaches a point in time where sales are flat, sales stop growing, sales stop increasing, or increase very slowly, and then start to decline. So that's not like, oh, okay, that's just the way it is. We'll just wait for that to happen.